The U.S. State Department places the number of people being trafficked for sex or labor as high as 27 million worldwide. Most of them are women and girls. This week, PBS showed the depth of sex trafficking and forced prostitution in countries such as India, Pakistan, and Cambodia in a program called Half the Sky. But if you think human trafficking is limited to developing countries, think again. It's happening in the U.S., and Liz Exon reports it's a growing problem in Oklahoma.
1 year ago, a duffel bag containing a dismembered body was discovered behind a Bethany grocery store. Authorities identified the victim as 19-year-old Karina Saunders of Mustang. Two men, Jimmy Massey and Luis Ruiz, have been charged with first-degree murder in the case. Prosecutors allege that Saunders was killed to intimidate others, not to defy a human and drug trafficking ring. The crime brought increased attention to human trafficking in Oklahoma. Darrell Weaver is the executive director of the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs. He says evidence is mounting about the extent of the human sex trade in Oklahoma.
Really, in the last few years, we've been gathering intelligence and kind of monitoring some of these, and I really think that it could be a very significant issue in our state. So we really haven't wrapped our hands completely around this. This is really new, not only to the Bureau of Narcotics, but also to our whole state. But we do believe there is a problem. How significant, we haven't really, again, wrapped our arms around it, but we believe it's out there.
You know, drugs you can sell one time, but you can sell a person multiple times. And unfortunately, with the internet and all of that, it's increasing.
State Representative Pam Peterson recently held a legislative study on human trafficking.
Because of the highways that intersect Oklahoma with I-40 and I-35 and 44, we see a lot of victims coming through our state.
Peterson is alarmed by what she's learning.
Lots of times girls from Oklahoma are found in California or Nevada, and that's one of the things that the traffickers are very good at. They move them around. If they feel that they might be getting closed in on and law enforcement's kind of watching a particular location or whatever, they move the girls.
Mark Elam is considered a national expert on human trafficking. 4 years ago, he formed a coalition called OATH, which stands for Oklahomans Against Trafficking Humans.
I think what's most shocking, I think what's really gotten the attention of America is how young the girls were being recruited into this adult sex industry. And average age, the studies are showing between 12 and 13 years of age. So we've started that campaign, she's13.com, because it was so shocking to understand the average target age was 13.
Donations to OATH are paying for billboards aimed at raising awareness of the problem. OATH has also produced public service announcements.
Your business in these pimp traffickers and recruitment groups is to make money, not to fight with law enforcement. So you want to find the kid that nobody's looking for, nobody cares about. In fact, everybody's kind of pushing out of their world and they've got no place to go. And you reach out to that kid, make them promises, make them feel special, invite them into your group or organization or relationship, and then coerce them and groom them until you've really kind of brainwashed them some into doing things for you, either in running drugs or in gangbanging or in this forced prostitution.
Some young people lured into sex or drug rings are runaways.
We've had a shelter since 1977, and there are probably every year a few kids that come through that have been manipulated by an adult, and sometimes they've been brought in from other cities or communities, and then they fall under the control of that adult or a group of adults.
Jim Walker is the executive director of Youth Services of Tulsa. He knows young people who have been exploited sexually.
It is an issue. I don't think it has been tracked long enough to have significant statistics.
Walker says while some of the kids in the shelter have been sexually exploited, others have been recruited to sell magazines door to door.
If the kids don't hit their quota for the day, they're not given money to eat, And if they don't make it for several days, they could be thrown out of the motel room that they all share, and often are left. That the sales group will load up in the van and take off, and there'll be a couple of them left here.
Elam says members of O seek out young people who are being victimized.
And so to do that safely, that looks like going into the runaway shelters or the girls' detention centers, where they're there without any trafficker or abusive person around, and they're in a safe environment and spending time with them in those locations.
Elam also educates law enforcement about human trafficking.
Typically, these young ladies and young boys that get caught up in this are going to look like juvenile delinquents. They're going to come from troubled past, from maybe broken homes. They're maybe going to be runaways or throwaways. They're probably going to be self-medicating with drugs or alcohol because of all the trauma that's gone on. They've run to drugs or alcohol as a form of escape, as a coping skill. And so they're going to be in the wrong places, doing the wrong things, and look like criminals to law enforcement.
Elam recently taught a course in human trafficking to law enforcement in Creek County.
We're a rural community, but we're on the edge of a metropolis, and we have I-44 running through our county. So there are opportunities that we need to be looking for where maybe we're seeing a victim and not realizing that we're seeing one.
Creek County law enforcement advocate Kimberly Frazier also works with domestic violence victims.
Intimate partner trafficking is where one partner is being forced to sell sex to bring in money, and they're not, this is not a willing arrangement. This is, they're either being forced into it, they're afraid, or they're being coerced in some way, blackmailed.
Educating law enforcement is just part of Elam's mission. Oath also holds training seminars for the public.
I believe that education is the best prevention. So what we have to do right now is we have to raise awareness. Not many people know about this issue. So when we use the term prostitute, you really have to be careful. Are these girls actually doing it because they want to, or are they being forced to?
Allie Meehan is an Oath volunteer who is encouraging others to get involved.
And then I have to ask you the same, what brought you here today?
I work with a group of underprivileged girls, 4th and 5th graders, at a safe harbor kind of program in another city on Friday nights, and they are prime targets for this kind of thing.
The state legislature passed a law which takes effect November 1st that creates a 7-agent unit in the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs to investigate human trafficking.
So we have the undercover capabilities. We have the surveillance techniques and really the vice type of techniques for our state to infiltrate and do something about these type of crimes. So November 1st, we'll hit the ground running, if you would, in trying to infiltrate some of these groups around our state.
Representative Peterson is looking at legislation passed in other states that gives law enforcement wiretapping capabilities to investigate human trafficking.